Welcome to Loving God and Loving Life. We're in Luke chapter 20, where the theme is Jesus giving the parable of these evil tenant farmers. And then he tells us to render, to give to Caesar that which is Caesar's, and to God that which is God's. And he teaches us the law of marriage. Jesus has just given them the story of the tenant farmers, and then he goes on to this classic phrase to give to Caesar that which is Caesar, to God that which is God's. But you got to back up and see the story. The tenant farmers, well, a tenant means that they don't own it. So Jesus has just been very clear. God owns everything. God is ultimately in charge, and it's our job to give to God. It's all his. Well, some people misunderstood, that type of thinking. That was a common Jewish thinking, and Jesus was saying that, going on from there, the connection to give to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God's is people would take that so far that, okay, we're tenants, this is all God's, this planet is God's, this nation is God's. Therefore, they didn't have to be respectful to the government. And Jesus, really flipped that. And he said, no, you give to Caesar what is Caesar's, to God what is God's. Yes, it's still all God's. But see, Jesus is saying God put Caesar there. Now, that would have done a number on their Jewish brain, because Caesar was the enemy. And to give to Caesar, Jesus is saying, yeah, it is all God's, and Caesar is God's. And God put him there. And you know what? God put our government there. And we need to respect it. And there probably was a little bit further going on here, because it was their lack of respect for Rome that ultimately is the reason why their nation was destroyed. Yeah, Rome came, and we just talked about that in the last chapter. Rome came and utterly destroyed them because they refused to recognize Rome. Jesus was trying to give them a clue. Gang, God is a lot more involved than you think. This Caesar who's in your face, do you think that he could rise to that level of power without God putting him there? No, of course not. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's. Give to God what is God's. And the same is true for us today. We have authority over us that we're tempted to despise. Jesus would say, don't do it. Don't do it. Recognize the hand of God. Your God is a lot bigger than you realize. And even the power over you that occasionally you might resent, don't do it. Don't do it. Trust God. Give to that authority what you owe, what is due. Pay your taxes. Do what is right for the boss at work, in your life, in all areas of your life. There's going to be some things that you owe, if you will, in marriage, in life, at church, at work. There's always a little part that you've got to give. Give your part, because recognizing that God is the one who's instituting it all, and you're going to end up with a life of joy. You're going to end up with peace and joy, where you're not controlling everything. You're letting God control. Friends, let's pray for one today. God, today, send us one person today to share your love with. My friends, never forget that doing God's will and loving God is the only way to love your life.